You're born in Shamshui-Po, Hong Kong. Your father was mainland Chinese, a construction worker who came over in 1995 looking for better wages before the handover. He disappeared in 1997 when the British flag came down and the red one went up. Vanished into the chaos of that summer. Your mother is Cantonese, works in a garment factory in Cheung comes home with fabric lint in her hair and hands that smell like industrial dye. She works 12-hour shifts. You see her 3 hours a day in Hong Kong. Blood matters. Yours is mixed. Mainland father, local mother. You're not British enough for the old Hong Kong, not mainland enough for the new one. The kids at school have words for people like you. Bek ja jai. Mainland boy. They use it like a weapon. Your teachers hear everything. They look away. You learn early that some people are born belonging. You were born on the outside, looking through glass you can't break. The beating happens when you're 16. Temple Street, night market, near the fortune tellers and the fake watches. 3 older guys from a Mongkok crew corner. They don't like your face. They don't need a reason beyond that. Fists first, then feet when you're down. One of them has a metal pipe. He uses it on your ribs. You hear the crack before you feel it. You curl up between cardboard boxes and wait for it to end. That's when you notice the man. Black suit, jade ring on his right hand, leaning against a Mercedes across the street, smoking a cigarette. He watches the whole thing like it's a movie he's seen before. When the guys leave, he walks over. It doesn't help you up. Just looks down at you bleeding on the concrete. You want them to fear your name instead. He asks, his name is NG, he runs a family. Not the kind with dinner tables and New Year reunions. The 4K Triad. One of the big 3 in Hong Kong. He doesn't care that you're half mainland. We're all outsiders here, he says. Refugees, bastards, broken things nobody wanted. He offers you a place to sleep and food to eat. The catch, you start at the bottom. The bottom is lower than you can imagine. You go home, pack a bag, leave your mother a note saying you found work in Sim Sha Sui. You're not lying. You just don't mention what kind of work day 1. You wake up at 5 in the morning. Your job is to make tea, real tea, Gong Fu style. For 15 senior members who gather at a dim sum restaurant in Jordan, you learn each man's preference. How hot, how strong, how much chrysanthemum. Get it wrong, and you're invisible for a week. Get it right, and you're still invisible, but at least you're not insulted. Then you run errands. Cigarettes from the 7-Eleven, newspapers, food deliveries. You carry bags. You bow when anyone senior walks past. You make $0. You sleep on a thin mattress in a subdivided flat in Shamshui-Po with 4 other recruits. You're not a gangster. Your furniture that bows, they call you Blue Lantern, the lowest rank. Not even a real member yet. You're being tested. Character. Loyalty. Can you shut your mouth? Can you follow orders? Can you disappear when you're supposed to? For 18 months, you're invisible. You stand in corners during meetings in the back rooms of karaoke bars and mahjong parlors. You absorb everything. You say nothing. You learn the hierarchy. At the top, the 489, Dragonhead. Below him, the 438 Deputy Mountain Lord. Then the 4-6, Red Pole, the Enforcer. The General. Below them, the 49, Ordinary Soldiers. And below them, you Blue Lanterns. Ghosts learning to become men. 1 Blue Lantern. Last year talked back to a red pole. They found him in the water near Lama Island 3 weeks later. His name is never mentioned. You keep your mouth shut, your tea perfect, and your head down. You're waiting for your shot. Your first real job comes after 18 months. A shop owner in Mongkok electronics store near the Langham Place Mall. He hasn't paid protection in 2 months. You go with a senior for 9ER named Kyung. The owner starts making excuses. Cash flow problems. Mainland competition? Online sales. Kyung picks up an iPhone from the display case and drops it on the floor. Screen shatters. Next time, it won't be the phone, Kyung says. The owner pays. You carry the envelope. Your hands don't shake. You're surprised how calm you feel. The money flows upward. Always you collect from businesses. Give everything to Kyung. He takes his cut. Passes the rest up to the red pole. The red pole passes up to the deputy. The deputy to the Dragonhead. You don't skim. The 4K has accountants who know exactly what every block should produce. Steal $1 and you're stealing from the family. Thieves don't get warnings. They disappear. The hierarchy isn't about respect, it's about math, and the math is always exact. You prove yourself on a humid night in August. A deal goes wrong at a warehouse in Guangdong, counterfeit watches from Shenzhen. A rival crew shows up. Wo Xing Wo Society. Someone tipped them off. Your senior reaches for his phone to call backup. That's when you see the cleaver. You don't think? You step in front. The blade goes into your side. Deep, scraping rib. You feel the cold before the pain. 6 hours in Queen Elizabeth Hospital. 38 stitches. The police ask questions. You tell them you fell on construction rebar. They don't believe you. You don't care. Word gets back to NG half mainland. Kid took a cleaver and didn't say a word to the cops. 2 weeks later, you're invited to a ceremony. It happens in a basement in Kowloon City, an old building scheduled for demolition, but not yet. The room smells like incense and mildew. Red cloth everywhere. Candles. 30 men in a circle. You kneel in the center. In front of you, 36 oaths written on yellow paper. Ancient words. Some go back 300 years to the Qing dynasty, when the Triads were rebellion societies against the MAPS-US.NG, reads each oath. You repeat them. I shall not disclose the secrets of the Hung family. I shall assist my sworn brothers to bury their parents and brothers. I shall never commit any indecent assaults on the wives, sisters, or daughters of my sworn brothers. If I am arrested after committing an offense, I must accept my punishment and not try to place blame on my sworn brothers. 36 oaths. Each one a promise. Each one a death sentence, if broken. The punishment for betrayal is written in the oaths themselves. Death by 5 thunderbolts, dismemberment, drowning. These aren't metaphors. After the oaths, they burn the paper. You drink tea mixed with your own blood, drawn from your finger with a needle. You drink from the same cup as NG. That's it. No contracts. No lawyers. You're 49 ER now. A soldier. You belong.NG looks at you differently after. Not like a tool. Like a soldier in his army. You earned this, he says. First time anyone's ever said you earned anything. First time you believe it, they mark you 2 weeks later. Not a full-body tattoo like the Yakuza. The 14K is more careful now. But you get the burn. A specific pattern on your left shoulder, done with a heated iron stamp in a private room above a medicine shop in Yoma Tei. The pain is extraordinary. The scar is permanent. It marks you as 14K forever. You can never go to a public pool, a gym changing room, anywhere your shoulder shows. You're branded, that's the point. By 25, you're running your own crew. 6 men who call you, die low, big brother. You have a collection route through Simsha Sui, a string of bars, karaoke clubs, massage parlors, electronics shops. They pay on time because they know what happens when they don't. You wear suits now from a tailor in Simsha Sui. You drive a Mercedes. You send money to your mother through a shell company that makes it look like investment returns. She thinks you work in property development. She's not entirely wrong. You learn the business isn't about violence. Violence is just punctuation. The real business is territory, relationships, leverage. You learn which district councilors take bribes and which ones you avoid. You learn which police captains can be negotiated with and which ones are true believers you stay away from. You learn that fear is a renewable resource. Use it sparingly and it lasts forever. Use too much and people decide they have nothing to lose. That's when they become dangerous. You try to have normal things. A woman. She works at a karaoke bar you protect. Understands what you are without asking questions. An apartment in Whampoa with a view of the harbor. Dinners at restaurants where the owner never brings you a bill. But normal is a costume you wear, not a life you live. You check your car for bombs every morning. You sit with your back to the wall. You memorize exits everywhere you go. Paranoia is just good planning when everyone actually is out to get you. The 14K controls shipping, counterfeiting, prostitution, gambling, protection across Kowloon. Your territory borders Sanye on in Mongkok, Wo Xing Wo in Yoma Te. The borders shift. Sometimes with negotiations, sometimes with cleavers. You're responsible for keeping your stretch quiet. The dragonhead doesn't care how, just don't attract police attention. Don't make headlines. Don't make his phone ring. You're good at it. Reliable. By 30, you're a candidate for Red Pole, the enforcer. The general. You manage 50 men across 3 districts. You coordinate with mainland officials who need things moved across the border. Documents, money, people. The handover was supposed to change everything. It just changed who you pay and how much. You make your mistake when you're 32, a shipment gets intercepted. Not your fault. Someone in the chain talked to the ICAC, Hong Kong's anti-corruption police. But it was your route, your responsibility. In the corporate world, you'd get a warning. Here, you get a knife and a towel. But the one for K doesn't do finger cutting like the Yakuza. That's Japanese. Your punishment is different. You have to handle the informant yourself, personal. You know who it is. One of your own crew. A 49ER named Y who's been with you for 3 years. He has a wife, a daughter. The ICAC promised to relocate them if he testified. You meet him at a warehouse in Suwon at 3 in the morning. He knows why you're there. He doesn't run. Maybe he's tired. Maybe he thinks you'll show mercy. You can't. Not because you want to kill him. Because if you don't, they'll kill you both. You use a plastic bag. Quieter than a knife. Cleaner than a gun. It takes 4 minutes. Longer than you expected. His eyes stay open. You close them after. You don't sleep for 3 weeks. But you don't talk about it either. That's the test. Can you do what's necessary? Can you carry it? Can you keep your mouth shut? You pass. The Dragon Head promotes you to Red Pole 2 months later. You're 33. You manage operations across Kowloon, shipping routes from Shenzhen, protection networks, gambling dens, money laundering through property companies. On paper, you're a businessman. You own a trading company, an import-export firm. You have business cards, a secretary, meetings with lawyers. You pay taxes. The violence is handled by younger men now. You've graduated to the part of crime that wears Italian shoes. By 40, you're deep in real estate. Property development companies that buy old buildings in Shemshuipo and redevelop them. Some of it's real business. Some of it's washing money from the mainland. You meet Chinese officials regularly. Men from Shenzhen, Guangzhou, sometimes Beijing. They need ways to move money out of China. You need their protection. It's symbiotic. You build things. A community center in Shemshuipo for low-income families. A scholarship fund for kids like you used to be. Mixed blood, wrong side of the tracks. You tell yourself the money you made in blood is finally doing some good. Deep down, you know the truth. You're not helping anyone. You're just laundering your conscience one donation at a time. You think about your father sometimes. The mainland construction worker who disappeared during the handover. You used to hate him for leaving. Now you understand. Some men aren't built for the lives they're given. They run because staying would kill them slower. You didn't run. You stayed and became something else. You're not sure which choice was worse. At least he only destroyed himself. You've destroyed others. At least he had the decency to vanish. You stuck around and called it loyalty. The Dragon Head gets sick when you're 40. Liver cancer. He lasted longer than most, 68 years old. Smoked 2 packs a day since he was 14. He dies in a private hospital in Happy Valley. The funeral is massive. 400 men in black suits. A procession through Kowloon that stops traffic. You stand near the front. You earned that spot. After the ceremony, the knives come out. Not real knives. Political ones. Everyone's calculating. 5 candidates for Dragonhead. You're one of them. But you realize your position isn't as secure as you thought. The new Dragonhead is 42. Educated at the University of British Columbia, came back to Hong Kong in 2010, speaks Cantonese, Mandarin, English, wears slim suits from Europe, talks about rebranding, about legitimate business ventures, about moving away from street-level operations. He looks at your burn scar like it's a disease, looks at your missing teeth from old fights like they're evidence of failure. The old ways are finished, he announces. What he means is men like you are evidence of a past he wants to erase. Then 2019 happens. The protests, millions in the streets. The one for K stays quiet, officially, but some younger crews get hired to attack. Protesters in UN long, men in white shirts with sticks. You're not part of it. Your crew stays out. But the damage is done. Beijing is watching Hong Kong now. Really watching. 2020, the national security law. Mainland authority fully extended over Hong Kong. The ICAC and the mainland's anti-corruption units coordinate. Triad activity that was tolerated becomes a liability. The new Dragonhead gets word from Beijing. Clean up or get cleaned up, they hold a vote. The senior members, 30 men in a room in Simshasui, the same men who bowed to you for 15 years. They vote to expel the old guard. You're 51. Too visible. Too traditional. Too much evidence of what the 14K used to be. You're given 1 hour to leave the building. Your territory is reassigned. Your businesses are transferred to other names. Your apartment, the one with the harbor view, belongs to the organization, not you. You walk out with your car and the clothes on your back. That's it. 27 years. Over in an hour. In the Triad world, expulsion is worse than death. Death makes you a legend. Brothers pour drinks for you at ceremonies. They tell stories. Expulsion makes you a ghost nobody wants to remember. Your name gets erased. Your burn scar means nothing. You're nobody. You're 52 now. You rent a subdivided flat in Shamshui-po. Same district where you were born. Full circle. You can't get legitimate work. Employers notice the scar, the missing teeth, the gap in your resume from age 18 to 51. What were you doing for 33 years? You can't explain. You eat at Chachanten's cheap diners. You watch businessmen walk past with their briefcases and their clean hands and their futures. You had power once, men who would die on your word. Now you have a hot plate and silence. Your mother died 3 years ago. You went to the funeral disguised. Hat, low, face mask, stood in the back. Your cousins were there, people you hadn't seen in decades. They didn't recognize you. Or maybe they did and pretended not to. Either way, you left before the burial. Walked to the MTR station alone. That was the last time you saw anyone who knew you before all this. The last connection to the person you used to be. You try not to think about why. The man you killed in the warehouse, his daughter would be 20 now. Maybe she's in university. Maybe she got out of Hong Kong. Maybe she knows what you did. Maybe she doesn't. The ICAC relocated them to Canada. You heard? You hope that's true. You hope she never learned her father died choking on a plastic bag in a warehouse in Suwon at 3 in the morning. You hope she thinks he's a hero who stood up to criminals. Even if the criminal was you. You see him last week. A kid, maybe 16, half mainland, half local. Cheap uniform from a public school. Fresh bruise under his left eye. Walking home through Shamshui-po with his shoulders hunched, trying to be invisible. You invented that walk. Across the street, a black Mercedes, a man in a suit, jade ring on his finger, watching, smoking. The cycle is starting again. You could warn the kid. You could cross the street and tell him what's coming. But what would you say? Don't become me. He won't listen. You didn't listen either when you were 16 and bleeding on Temple Street. The Triads don't run on loyalty. They run on loneliness. Every recruit is a kid who felt invisible until someone finally saw him. That's the hook. That's the trap. You spend your whole life looking for a family, and when you find one, you discover the membership fee is everything you are and everything you'll ever be. There's no retirement plan, no pension, just a subdivided flat and a body that tells a story nobody wants to hear. The burn on your shoulder took 5 seconds to brand. It'll take the rest of your life to carry. You belonged once. You had brothers. You had power. You had respect. And you gave up everything else to have it. Your mother died thinking you were a businessman. The woman you loved left when she realized you'd never choose her over the family. The man you killed had a daughter who will never know her father. You're 52. You're alive. You're free. And you're lonelier than you were at 16 bleeding on Temple Street. At least then you had hope that someone would see you. Now you know the truth. They saw you. They used you. And when you were no longer useful, they erased you. The kid across the street is about to get in the Mercedes. You watch, you don't move, because the cycle doesn't break. It just finds new blood. That's a wrap for today. The story you just heard is fiction, but the Triads are real. The 14K is real, and somewhere in Hong Kong right now, a 16-year-old kid with the wrong blood is being offered a ride in a black Mercedes. If this one made you think, drop a comment. Subscribe for more.